Welcome to Quality Perks, the podcast that not only delves into the intricacies of contact center quality management, but also uncovers the personal stories of industry leaders. Brought to you by BPA Quality, your trusted partner in enhancing customer experiences.
And good morning. We are live with Lisa Diehl and Neil Eggers and myself, Karen Dupree. As everybody know, I'm the Director of Quality Solutions at BPA Quality. And Neil, would you like to introduce yourself?
Good morning, everybody. Welcome. My name is Neil Eggers. I'm the Vice President of Client Success here at BPA. And we are joined by Lisa Diehl, Director of Customer Care at Freshpet. And there's a lot of stats here, so I want to make sure I go to the document to make sure I get them, because it's an impressive amount of credentials that you have. So Lisa's also the immediate past chair for SOCAP International and 3-time chairman of the board. And we're pretty sure that she and I met 11 years ago at a SOCAP conference, one of them, which is where our relationship started. So we're really excited to have you on, Lisa, and talk about coffee quality, contact centers, and SOCAP. So welcome and thank you for joining us.
Well, good morning, everybody. And, Karen, thank you. I'm absolutely honored to be here this morning and excited for the conversation.
Excellent. So we start all of these out by talking about which morning beverage we have, because it's called Quality Perks, right? So we have to talk about coffee, tea, or we had a guest on who has muscle milk in the morning. So it depends, whatever you happen to drink. Karen, what are you having today?
Actually, I decided to shake up things a little bit and make a smoothie. And what I did was it's a Harry and David chocolate raspberry coffee with blueberries, strawberries, bananas, almond milk, and I did put a little bit of whey protein in there. And wow. I'm going to tell you guys, it's actually really good.
So you're picking up on the muscle milk conversation from last week. You're going with the whey protein?
Yes, I originally was going to put an Evolve in there, chocolate, but I felt like it was going to be too chocolatey because of that chocolate raspberry coffee already in it. So that's why I went with just the whey.
Decadent. Sounds amazing. Lisa, what do you have this morning?
I can't compare to what Karen is drinking. So
we should just end the show. That's
right.
I just had black coffee.
I have my morning cup of tea, and so I'm not necessarily a coffee drinker, except when pumpkin spice lattes come out. So getting into the season, so I'm right there. But usually it's just a nice English breakfast or an Irish breakfast. For some days it's just Lipton, and so depending on what my taste buds are in for, but I have to have a morning cup of hot tea to get me going every morning. So
excellent. Well, I'm ununique this week, so anybody who tuned in to last week's show or binge watches our shows, we have folks out there just Friday nights, they just sit down and they watch Quality Perks back to back. I'm drinking Isle Morada iced tea. So there's this beautiful little breakfast place called the Midway Cafe in Isle Morada that we always stop at, and I always load up on bags of coffee. And once I open a bag of coffee and start brewing it, I have to finish it. I don't have like different varieties. So I don't know if it's a emotional thing or whatever it is, but that's what I go through. So Isle Morada, Midway Cafe, black, nothing, no sugar, just straight up. I'm playing that way, I guess.
Sounds good.
It does, yeah. So let's jump right into it. So I think there's a conference coming up in Indianapolis in maybe just a few weeks, right? Better Together. We're getting back together as a SOCAP group. Yes. Lisa, tell us about it.
It's going to be a really exciting conference, for a couple of reasons, right? So, this is our third in person since the pandemic. And, we're getting more and more registrations, which is exciting to see that the world is opening up. People are feeling a little bit more comfortable in traveling and attending conferences. And so SOCAP is going to be in Indianapolis on September 11th through the 14th. So really, really excited. We've never been to Indianapolis as a SOCAP organization. And I'm originally born and raised in the Chicago, Indiana area. And so for me, it's kind of going back home. So such a beautiful, beautiful city. If you've never been to Indianapolis, it is, of course, the capital of Indiana, and it is a very walkable city. It's a small town, big city feel. And so wonderful, wonderful place. There's going to be some great content, some great networking. We've got TikTok coming. So for all of you social media gurus out there, to have somebody like TikTok come in and really talk about, customer service and where things are going, on that platform that is just, blossoming every single day. And, looking at it from a brand perspective, probably maybe even a year and a half, 2 years ago, everyone's like, TikTok, what is that? And now, brands are, trying to advertise, and they're trying to do different challenges. And I know Freshpet is getting in the game a little bit with some different challenges that we have out there on Freshpet. And so for me on the consumer care side of it is really just, monitoring and engaging with our consumers to say, hey, like it, not like it, how can we help, type of thing. So, some really great content, some great speakers are going to be there. If you have not registered, please, SOCAP.org, get involved, because it's going to be a good one and you don't want to miss it.
Excellent. So, as I mentioned, 11 years, 3-time board chair. I know the answer to this question, but I'd love to hear it from your perspective as to what you've been able to take away from SOCAP and implement in your own career, personal life. What do you think those, let's start with professional. What type of learning or methodology have you deployed to benefit customer experience, the quality of your contact center, the experience of your agents, all of that? What's kind of your takeaways?
Yeah, absolutely, Neil. I mean, SOCAP really has been, and I've said this before for those of who know me, it really has been a lifeline for me in a lot of different ways. And so when I first joined SOCAP, which is really 11 years ago, Neil, as it was a time of, I was just, I was in an early manager role. I was working for a travel company, and, I really just wanted to learn how to really understand customer service, that world, how to really, really grow my area. And so, but I knew that in the industry that I was in, I wasn't necessarily going to need some of the partners that were there, because when I was working, I was with Orbitz.com at the time, and we had a lot of in-house type of, CRM, was all built because we were a technology company. But what I began to notice is building out those relationships, right? So what are the little nuggets that I could bring back with every conference that I went to? And it was a lot around the networking and learning what other brands were doing and how they were handling their consumers. Because if you think about it, no matter what company you're in, you basically have the same consumers. So when I was in travel, they would book through me, right? Because we were a platform of, you could book your airline, your hotel, your car, all of that. And so, whether they went to the front desk at the hotel or pick up their car or got on, the airline and sat in that airplane seat, they were all the same consumer. And so that same consumer also buys cars, and that same consumer also buys, pet food. And so it's really understanding how to treat the consumer, no matter what industry you're in. We all share that same basic knowledge of how to treat the consumer. And a lot of it is, again, the old golden rule or the old adage is, treat the consumer like you'd want to be treated. And so taking those types of practices and sharing with each other is the best thing that I've learned from SOCAP, right? It's because we're not telling our deep, dark secrets. But we're sharing what's best practice. How do you do this? How do you, what is your CRM like? And how do you handle these types of situations when you get escalations? Or, hey, are you doing digital coupons yet? Or, all of those different things that we deal with day to day. When I jumped from the travel company into the CPG world, that was a whole new ball game for me. And so I went from Orbitz and I joined the Blue Diamond Almonds team back in 2016, and really had the opportunity to shape and grow that area that I was responsible for. And so where I may not have necessarily needed some of the business partners that I worked with or that I got to know during, the conference at SOCAP, I realized then when I was in that particular industry that, hey, I would love to be able to do business with you. And so nurturing those relationships has become very, very critical to me. And I think from the business partner perspective, it's understanding that, you're not going to go to a conference and make a sale, right? You might, you get lucky. Most of the time, it's really nurturing those relationships and see where they go. And so when I moved over to Blue Diamond, I knew exactly which partner, SOCAP business partner that I wanted to work with or that I needed to work with. And so it was because I took the time to build those relationships and understand that when I had to put my company's money and my reputation, on the line to say, hey, I want to go here, here, and here, I had to make sure that, that we were working with a business partner that we trusted. We were working to making sure that I was spending the company's money in the right way and in a valuable way. And those are a lot of things that I learned along the way. And very critical to my career. Now that I'm over at Freshpet, and I'm in a different role now, in a director role, and so making a lot of those decisions to really elevate the consumer care area with Freshpet. Again, I'm tapping into the resources and the knowledge that I really couldn't find anywhere else, but at SOCAP. And all of the things that I've learned and the people that I became not only, professionally involved with, but, personal friendships. And so it makes it easy to be able to pick up the phone and call anybody that's a SOCAP member and say, hey, I've got this problem, or, hey, we're trying to benchmark. Can you tell me what your consumer care area looks like and how many reps do you have? And are you hybrid? And are you outsourcing? Are you in-house? What does that look like? What is your annual volume? And people will actually share that information with you because you're a trusted partner within the SOCAP network. And so, it's kind of like, hey, happy to share this information, but it may be a project that they're working on within their company, and it's like, oh, hey, we're working on that. Those people over at Freshpet are doing this. It's right. Not like that. It's kind of like, okay, here's how we're trying to build our business. And so when I joined Freshpet, and I've only been with Freshpet for 6 months, I started to look at, where the organization is as a whole and where, consumer care falls in line with that. And so that I can be ready for the growth of the company, because we're supporting that growth, right? So the more consumers that we bring in, the higher my volume is going to be when something goes wrong or we have inquiries or suggestions or whatever that may be. And just really understanding that, I need to benchmark against some of these other, let's say even just pet food companies. And I know, several members of that are part of SOCAP are also in the pet food industry world. And so for us to be able to get together as a group to say, hey, let's talk a little bit about, hey, what is Purina doing? What is Wellness doing? What is Freshpet doing? And, just understanding, that I need to say, okay, comparing myself to these other companies, where does Freshpet fit? And how do I begin to build my organization so that I'm in line with what I think is going to happen, over the next 2 to 3 years, in my world. And right. So, but truly, Neil, I probably wouldn't have been able to gather this type of information without a network like SOCAP, where, people feel comfortable and there's no threat to talk about, hey, my direct competitors, but we're talking about that consumer, right? And sometimes It's the same consumer. And so, they may be using Purina, on the bottom and Freshpet on the top of their bowl, for their pets. And so then it becomes the same consumer for two different companies. And And so it's really great to have that ability to say that, hey, I need to talk to X and X or so and so, that they're going to be able to help me with this situation. And so again, when we talk about that professional link and how it can help your professional career, having that knowledge and having that background will help propel you into, more senior level positions within your organization or a different organization.
Right. Let's go back to that. I'm intrigued about the, getting together with competition and talking about, what's happening in the industry. So what would you say is kind of your greatest success, or, the greatest opportunity that you've noticed so far, right? So what's kind of different in the fresh pet industry as it was, Blue Diamond or Orbitz or what's the biggest opportunity, and where do you think it's the neatest differential?
Yeah, so I think so in my world, so making the move over to Freshpet has been a great learning experience for me as well. And so being able to take information and there are several, like I said, there are several pet food companies that are SOCAP members, and so we get together. We actually did a presentation when we were in Arizona together about the pet food industry and where it's going as an industry, and then where each of our companies kind of differentiate or have a stake in the ground of hey, where Freshpet is going the fresh route, and Purina is going this, and Wellness is going this way. But having those opportunities to be able to benchmark with each other is probably the biggest thing, as I begin to look at, growing my organization and saying, okay, this makes sense. We have about the same volume, right? But they have 4 more people in their organization, and here's the different roles that they're doing. I should be able to start looking at this. Does this make sense in my organization? Wow, I never thought about having a specific analytical person right in consumer care. Those types of scenarios, and does it make sense? And do we become more of a of an insights, analytics, voice of consumer to other areas within the organization? It's like the amount of data that I have collected, being the voice of consumer. I always like to use the phrase, it's like, hey, I've got all this information. I'm only 2 cubes away,
Right.
Instead of you going out and paying for all this market research and data, I'm over here, I've got people that are actually using our products, and here's what they're saying about it, good, bad, and ugly. These are the things that you need to know. And so we start sharing out that information, to the organization, and we turn from being more of a complaints department. It's like, gosh, consumer care, they really have a lot of data, and they're sitting on, just this wealth of information that how do we share this out? And so then it takes the area, the department, and the view of the department in a totally different direction than, oh yeah, they just handle the complaints over there. And
right.
to really becoming, hey, they've got some valuable data, and we should really start to listen to what they're doing.
For sure. Yeah, it's one of the things that we're frequently talking about is we've got all this data, it should be making you money or saving you money.
Right.
We just got to make sure that the right people are using it, and you're using it to make decisions. Sounds like somebody has a Freshpet customer in the podcast this morning. Is it Lisa or is it Karen? Who's got the Freshpet customer?
Go ahead, Karen. My dog is asleep. It's fine. No, actually, that was your cheerleader. That's what I was going to say. It's your cheerleader. Right. There, he's like, right on.
Yeah, What's the name of that puppy?
Yeah, so I actually have 3, and the one that was just barking that you all heard, that's she's an Irish setter. She's a 3-year-old, and her name is Whiskey Cider. And so she gets excited when I talk about Freshpet because that's what they eat. And whenever I say the word Freshpet,
stop saying the word.
Right? They think it's time to be fed.
So brand recognition from the dog level is a beautiful thing.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. They dance and they sing when I go to the refrigerator, and they know that it's dinner time. So it's a wonderful thing. And so just to tout Freshpet for a little bit, it's awesome.
That works for us. Well, Lisa, we can't wait to see you here in just a couple of weeks in Indy at the symposium. So we're excited to be a part of that and host one of the speaking sessions there. And we'll look to keep going. I think maybe in a month or so, we should have Lisa part 2, so we can figure out what we learned at SOCAP, some takeaways, and what's new on the horizon, not only for SOCAP, but for you. But again, we really appreciate you joining us today, sharing some time with us and some insights from your experience, wealth of experience and knowledge and expertise. So again, thank you for your time. And Karen, as always, great to see you.
Great to see you too, and great to see you, Lisa, and talking with you. And wish I was going to be there in Indy, but I'll be there in spirit. And
absolutely,
can't wait to our part 2.
Yeah, look forward to it. And thanks you too. I really appreciate the honor to be a guest on the quality perks. It's wonderful. And Neil, I will see you in Indianapolis in a week or 2.
Sounds like a plan. Thanks again.
Good. All right.
Thanks
everyone. Bye-bye.
Okay, bye.